what I want to do is this. What I want to do is introduce a notion called emotional intelligence, the emotional intelligent trader. And what I want to do is assume this. I want to assume that everybody in here knows how to trade. They spent 2 to 5 years, they have learned how to trade, they can talk trading, and they're good to go, except when that booger hits. When all of a sudden their right brain and their left brain are no longer working together and suddenly something happens. The truth is that knowledge of trading is the price to enter the game. And it's usable only to the degree that you can actually master the emotions that you're experiencing under uncertainty and risk. That's the only thing. In theory, when you're in the classroom and everything's left brain and some guy tells you the big important secret of emotional state management is leave your emotions at the door, what you discover is that sounds good if you could only do it. The truth is when you get under pressure, when you get under uncertainty, and you don't know the outcome, you trigger and suddenly emotions are there anyway. The emotionally intelligent trader is choosing what emotions are going to show up to create the mind rather than getting bushwhacked at really horrible times. So what we want to do is we want to say, you know something, what is it about this? Because ultimately, no matter how good you are in the classroom, and that's what I notice, I see most traders in their journey from newbie to novice to experience, they jump to a lot of rooms, they do this, they have this system, they have that teacher, they go through many hours and a lot of capital, and they finally come to a moment where they realize that there's plenty of systems that work, okay, in the classroom. But the key is, what does the trading brain do in the environment of uncertainty, ambiguity, and an acknowledgement that you cannot control outcome? Okay? How do you deal with that? The problem really is this, is the brain itself is hardwired to trigger to fear or aggression when experiencing uncertainty. Uncertainty will generate confusion, and the brain that we inherited from many, many, many millions of years is built to control outcome, to make survival in that moment happen. And ultimately what you begin to see is this, is that your brain becomes a ticking time bomb. It's just waiting for the moment to come when all your willpower, all that is there, suddenly comes face to face where you cannot control. And in trading, what you find out is there are 2 general ways of trying to control outcome. One is by perfectionism. That's not being wrong. I got to be right. And the other is alpha, where you've got to win. You've got to be trading to do something. I'm taking action, making things happen. The perfectionists tend to hesitate a lot and go to pieces, and the alphas tend to chase trades and end up in really bad places. So we're looking at this thing going, well, how do you actually go about mastering your emotions and mind to manage trading? And this is at a point where I'm assuming, at least the people I'm talking to, have been around the block. They've done all the things where they've seen all the wonderful things, and they've sat in God knows how many classrooms and trading rooms, and what they've realized is that what's missing is not their knowledge. What's missing is their ability to contain and manage emotion under pressure. That's the real deal. And what we want to do, how do you go about how do you take a struggling trader who really truly knows the knowledge but can't manage the emotion to keep his head screwed on straight during the rigors of trading, and how do you move them to where they become an expert, they become a professional trader? Because ultimately, a lot of people stay experienced traders, but they don't make any money, or marginal. They don't make it to the professional trader, the ones that are truly making money, and the expert traders, the ones who are really pulling capital out of the markets. So what you're doing is you're going, maybe I'm going to have to start cluing in and recognizing that left brain knowledge simply is not enough. It's not. What happens is that you also have to develop right brain knowledge. You have to begin to understand your instinctual nature. You have to understand what emotions really are, and then begin to say, well, you know, I can actually manage emotion, and I can actually master my emotional nature, and then emotion and knowledge are working together. This is where peak performance really happens, whether or not you're a trader or whether or not you're an active investor. This is where it's at. Both reason of the left brain and instinctual emotion are working together. That's when you have an advantage. That's when the professional trader smells blood of the people who are going to mess up because of their fear or because of their irrational exuberance. The truth is what you're going to know. We'll talk about this dirty little secret, but very few people make money in trading. I mean, real honest-to-God traders. You begin to realize that, like in business and regular business, that 95% of businesses fail in the first 7 years. Well, friends, that's about what the number is, we think. In trading, too, is there's a lot of failure, not because they don't have knowledge. It's because they don't know how to use the knowledge. And here is what we want to do, is we want to integrate emotion, okay, with reason. Because ultimately, whether or not you like it or not, when you take a look at this picture, I want you to take a look at that surfer. When you are confronted with uncertainty, the first thing that's going to happen, your brain is going to trigger to confusion. That confusion is going to most likely lead to fear. Fear is going to either lead to avoidance or aggression, attack or avoid. And the truth is, the more stress is there, what your brain is going to do is going to revert to old reactive patterns. It's going to hijack your trading mind. You're going to hijack logic at the very time that you need to think calmly and coolly. So if you do that, you begin to realize that, what I realize is that all thinking is emotional state dependent. So, it's emotion that is actually creating the mind that you reason from. Have you ever noticed how, you can sit there and you can have different people reviewing a trade and they come to a different reason, they explain it differently. Both think they're being rational, but yet what you discover is rational simply produces an explanation that supports the decision that the emotional brain has already made. And if you grasp what I just said, you understand the key why people fail in trading, and you also see the key for the door that opens up and going, what if I turn toward my emotions even though they're uncomfortable, which is what I teach. I actually teach people how to turn toward their discomfort, because until you calm that discomfort down, it's going to hijack mind. So you're looking at it, and you begin to realize that the emotionally intelligent trader is actually volitionally using his skills, okay? And what he also knows is that reason serves emotion. It's kind of like David Hume, 19th century Scottish philosopher, said it well from that time and place, is that reason is slave to emotion. Now, we in neurobiology would say, well, actually, we've dressed that up a little bit. We say that actually all thinking is emotional state dependent. Either way, your deepest reactive emotions are going to come up and you're going to see them. That's the way it works. So what we now know is this, is that to really understand the mind that's trading, and most of the time the mind just goes out of order. I mean, you're sitting there and you're a rational human being. One moment, things start happening, things start getting tough, things kind of get out of hand, and before you know it, you have been sucked down the vortex and you're no longer in the right mind that you were. You really need to understand, to be able to really work with this, you really need to understand the brain's emotional response to exposure to this uncertainty and literally what its function is. We want to think that we're rational creatures, but the truth is we are not. We are not rational creatures trying to be emotionless. We are emotional creatures trying to be rational. And rational is just another emotion within the arsenal of emotional programs in the brain. And you start from our ancestors many years ago, where everything is based on survival emotion. wiring into reactive patterns so that when there are changes in status in the environment, the reaction is automatic for short-term survival. Then we go on up, and here we are now sitting in a field, a trading field, where literally the management of uncertainty is what you folks are doing. That is exactly what the brain was never designed to do. So now what happens is that if we are going to move to a long-term beneficial state of being able to make money managing uncertainty, we have to alter the brain that we inherited, not just psychologically from our families and our culture, but also the brain that we inherited through our genetics and evolution. That's what the rub is, and that's why very few people make successful traders. So first of all, let's start. What's an emotion? Most people truly don't have the understanding of what an emotion is. If they did, they would stand back and say, whoa, I need to work with this. If you view emotion as a biological action potential, okay, and it's triggered every time that there is a change in status in the environment. By definition, if there's a change in status, an emotion automatically shows up. And first of all, it is biological. It is not psychological. Emotions do not happen in your psychology. Emotions happen and create psychology. Do you see the difference? And until you learn this and you say, okay, geez, I understand this triggering, and I understand that suddenly my thoughts, the kind of thinking I'm capable of at any particular moment in time, is totally dependent upon the emotional nature that I'm in at that moment. Yeah. If you understand that, you understand the need to manage emotions. So you can literally be, oh my God, in the market, people who know how to trade are depending on people freaking out. They smell the blood, okay? At the same time, a lot of professional traders, their biggest problem is euphoria. It's not fear. They can get in trades. They start getting overconfident and blow themselves up. And so you're looking wherever you are on the scale, from a trader who has fear of entry, hesitation, fear of missing out on profits, or if you're a more experienced trader that has problems with sabotage or problems with overconfidence, okay, are not taking enough money off the table. That's what I see with a lot of professional traders. They come to me because they know they should be getting more money off the table. You're looking as, okay, all the thinking, everything seems reasonable at the moment of decision. It's when you get out of that hot moment that you look back and go, what was I thinking? And the truth is you did not have command of your emotions. You tried to pretend they weren't there, and they wiped you out. So now we've got this idea of an emotion as a biological action potential. And friends, there are 5 components to an emotion that once you understand first what an emotion is, then you understand the structure of emotion, you can begin working with that emotion to create the mind that you need to trade effectively. The first is after the triggering, after that disruption of a standard sensorial pattern, comes arousal. That's the revving up of the emotion, like the Hulk sitting there. You know, what happens is that something gets in there and it triggers him, and he's offended, and the anger begins to rev, and there's this, as it revs and builds, what happens is your heartbeat's going up, your anatomic system goes way over to fight, flight, and you're preparing to either fight or flee the situation. That's arousal. At some moment, though, the emotion is no longer arousing. There's a switch that goes off. It goes, and all of a sudden, it's no longer cranking up. It's now pulsing through your blood system. It is pulsing through your brain. It's at the level of synapse. And what it's doing is it's creating a chemistry that is altering thought. I want you to hear that. The chemistry of the emotion, known as a feeling, this thing that you were thinking is this icky feelings I have, the feeling itself is the chemistry of the emotion in the body altering thought. If cortisol's there, you find yourself anxious. If testosterone and dopamine are there, you find yourself overconfident and revenge trading and overtrading. You're revving up. Once that emotion is triggered, it basically is going to go in 3 directions only. Attack, there's your revenge, there's your overtrading. Avoid, there's your hesitation, that's trading not to lose, and there's approach. Approach is what is about curiosity. It's not about reactiveness. It's about sit there, being in the flow, being in the zone, watching. It's what you want. But what happens is you have to learn to manage the emotion, the revving of it, so that when the emotion fires, it's the one you want to fire to manage uncertainty, and you want it to go down approach motivation rather than attack or avoid. That can be learned. Meaning, we'll get that a little bit later. Meaning is the beliefs that comes attached to that emotion. And predisposition, that's genetics, that's way past my pay grade, but now we have enough to really look at this thing. The emotionally intelligent trader has learned how to tame the beast of reactivity. Okay? Because emotions are biological, okay? Breathing and tension will be a signature component of that emotion. And what I teach in my work is to use breathing, and do this tomorrow. Trade tomorrow and start noticing how the tenseness creeps into your body. Notice where you keep it. I was in a hedge fund a couple of weeks ago, and what was happening, their fists are tight, their guts are tight, their legs are flipping like that nervous leg stuff. What they're realizing is, oh my God, if I only could look at this arousal, I could see that it's there. Okay? This is step one in a process that I teach. It takes 3 or 4 weeks for a person to get it and start habituating in a different way. Most people fall into a pattern that leads them directly to attack, avoid type emotions. Okay? But by breathing, you can slow it down, you can alter the emotion. Fear and fear requires the halting of breath or panting. If you start breathing, you're going to disrupt the ability of that emotion hanging around. The same thing, you release tension. Tomorrow, check it out. Just notice what's going on in your body, and you're going to see a loaded, ticking time bomb waiting for it to go off. That's where you actually begin. But beyond that, what happens emotionally, what you discover is the ability of mindfulness. You discover the ability of being able to step back out, okay? And you go, wow, what do you mean? What I mean is this. You and your beliefs, you and your thoughts are not the same. Your awareness is different than thoughts and beliefs. In fact, you don't even have thoughts and beliefs. They have you. That's your brain adapting to circumstances and already being there, and you didn't even know about it. What we want to do is once we calm the emotion down, we want to learn to step back. We call that mind observer, and you begin to realize that the mind and the brain are place. You get to literally believe what your beliefs are. What most people discover is that brain neural standpoint is a community of rival programs that you not recognizing that they're very competitive, and they have organized them into a particular way that creates you. But you are only one particular organization of self. Okay, and that's the mind that you bring into trading. That, my friends, is the community of rival programs. But when those rival programs become mind, something different happens. You begin to observe it and you realize that the emotional programs have been given voice in your mind, and those voices are your thoughts. It becomes far more interesting at that particular time. Because here, as you develop mindfulness, you begin to watch the beliefs, watch the structure of the mind, and you realize that you have been asleep at the wheel for a long time. And that you need to wake up. If you're going to be successful in trading, you are not going to be able to bring the mind that you brought to trading. Success in trading requires a very different kind of mind. One that is working with probabilities, rather than trying to determine outcome. You give up the illusion of control and you work with probabilities. And friends, you can talk that talk all you want, but until you can do it, you have not changed the core belief system. Okay? So then you're going, wow. Well, now what I can do is I can begin to take a look and say, what's inside the mind? What are these particular beliefs? Okay? Ultimately, what it really boils down to is this, is that your perception of the markets are based on those beliefs. As a matter of fact, you have not experienced the market at all. What you've experienced are your beliefs about the markets. What you have experienced is literally your brain taking sensorial modalities, bringing them into a working virtual representation of beliefs, and you're projecting that virtual representation onto the phenomenon called the market, and you're reading the market. Do you see how belief becomes so deeply involved in it? And if you think you're being threatened, okay, or if you think that you're just going to go in and make a bunch of money, then you already have lost. If you're thinking, I'm going to manage my performance so that I stay disciplined, I stay calm, I stay patient, I stay rational, and I'm going to calm my fears, then you're talking about a trader who can learn. But most people stay stuck at the wall of self-limiting beliefs. And the truth is that there is a great truth meter in trading that's not available in most other domains. It's called your trading account. Your trading account, if you listen to it, will tell you of the effectiveness of this virtual simulation of beliefs that you have, whether or not it's effective. If it's effective, you're going to have an equity curve growing. If it's not effective, you're either going to be burning capital or you're stagnant. So you can see it. The truth is all traders, practically all traders, have the voice of self-doubt or temptation. It's in their internal dialogue, and you can listen to it. When you're trying to sit there, how many of you ever sat there and if you have problems with hesitation, get in, no, more confirmation, get in. Do you hear the internal dialogue? Do you hear the fear? Do you hear the criticism? Do you hear the temptation? Or after making a mistake and losing money, who hasn't beat themselves up? You dumb little blah, 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 blah. You hear these internal dialogues of self-doubt and temptation and fear. Okay? These are the things that if you do not manage, you're never going to make it. Because ultimately it's this. Your beliefs produce the thoughts. Thoughts become words. Words become habits. Habits become our values. And our values become our destiny. Self-fulfilling prophecy. So you're looking at going, I need to look very closely at my beliefs. And what I recognize is these are not the beliefs I like to talk about. These are the beliefs I see reflected in my trading account. It will tell you the effectiveness of those beliefs. And I can promise you, performance beliefs are revealed. The thing, you have to decide whether or not you're willing to listen to the trading account and whether or not you have the internal courage to turn toward the discomfort and recognize, there's beliefs here that is stopping my performances and from me achieving my potential. Until you get that, you're stuck. You've got to look at that and you go, well, where I need to start then is emotional regulation is going to calm the emotion. Okay? That's what we talked about, the first skill 1. Mindfulness, skill 2, is developed as a tool to observe the mind. You open the door of the mind, you look in, and suddenly you start seeing the structure of the mind. You're going, oh my God, I have a disorganized mind. No wonder I'm not doing well in trading. And then what you're doing is you're saying, you know something? What I need is this, is I need to become intentional to address the powerful emotional circuits required to produce trading probabilities. These circuits are discipline, courage, patience, and impartiality. They're just as real as the fear and the criticism from the historical internal dialogue. This is a mind that you can build. And it just so happens that you can actually learn to do it. You can learn to manage uncertainty. The very first thing you do is you let go of controlling outcome. What you're doing is you can control one thing, the process of the trade, not the outcome of the trade. You can control what mind do I bring into this moment of performance. You know, the PGA golf circuit is pretty simple. There's a lot of people there. They can all putt. They can all drive. Just like traders, there's a lot of people who have the knowledge of trading, okay? But there's very few money players. Very few money players in the same way that there are very few money traders. What happens is the ones who are in the money are the ones who can perform under pressure. They're getting at the very core beliefs that drive performance. That's what you're looking to do. And to the experienced trader, the act of trading really is a head game. Okay? Once you have knowledge, once you've spent your 10,000 hours, once you've spent your 2 to 5 years, 10 years or more in trading and it hasn't happened, and you're still seeing yourself kind of struggling there and not making it to the next level, and you spend a lot of capital, you've done a lot of time doing things, you have to come to the moment, man, this is my beliefs in action. The problem with this picture, the problem with performance in trading is my head. I need to work on my head. I need to develop it to have the breakthrough I'm looking for. This, friends, is where reason and gut instinct, emotion, work together to create the trading mind. Intuition, I define as unconscious pattern recognition, and it allows the trader to know without knowing how he knows. You have to have a very stable mind, this discipline, this courage, this patience, and this reason really have to be there, and you have to be solid to be able to start using intuition, emotional intuition, in your trading. But it's what the great traders are doing. So the thing is you're going, okay, but how do I produce lasting change? First, you decide. You decide to be honest. You decide to find the inner strength to break the self-limiting patterns that are holding you back from achieving at the level you can. That's the first thing. You have to decide to break that chain and quit talking the talk. But you begin to say, I'm going to walk this walk. And I know it's not going to be comfortable. I know that I'm going to have to look at discomfort, right, stare it in the face. But the discomfort is telling me exactly what I need to do and where I need to go. When you do that, what happens, and you have the emotional regulations, you have the mindfulness skills to step back, what you're doing is you discover something. Is it accessing the heroic emotional programs? It's there. It can be taught. I teach it from what is known as a memory restructuring standpoint. I'm not asking you to have a magic wand and to use visualization and affirmations and think that you're going to create a fantasy that's going to come true. I actually take you into real experience that you have experienced these programs firing, or you would have never been able to perform the way you did. And I teach you how to extract those and pull those forward into working mind. So it's real. It's very real. It's not something that you would like to have happened. And it's sustainable under pressure, which is the problem with visualization and affirmational things. It's hard to make it work under pressure. So you're looking at that in the same way that you easily live in fear and live in overconfidence. You can also develop the programs of discipline, courage, self-compassion, and impartiality. And people often ask me, what's a self-compassion business? My response to that is this: when was the last time you beat yourself up and made you a better trader? Never. If you acknowledge your suffering, if you have compassion, that is the ticket, friend. That actually allows you to take self-limiting belief and to detangle it into reorganizing it into higher affirming belief, which you need to manage probability. So you rebuild this committee of the mind, and I would say that discipline becomes ruler as a part of yourself, as a part of your mind, and that ruler maintains order under pressure. This courage becomes warrior. That warrior is going to confront fear. It's going to protect the boundaries of the kingdom. The patience, the self-soothing, calms the fear of this irrational amygdala that controls the emotional hijackings. With that calm, what happens is the impartiality of the sage can trade plan. That's how powerful it is. It can be taught. And once you begin to go, okay, this is where they're located, now what happens is I can take that and I can turn toward the conflict generated by uncertainty and ambiguity. And what you discover in that moment is this: the future hasn't arrived yet. Nobody's written the future. The past is gone. It's irrelevant. But like in surfing, literally, you are in the moment. That's the only time that you have. That's the only place. That's the mind that you have to be focused on. That's the performance mind. Powerful stuff. This is what the master trader can do. He's living in the moment. Okay, this is where feeling, emotions, and reason are working together. This is powerful stuff. It can be taught. But the process, what I want you to understand is that change is not an event like easy stuff in America, okay? Change is a process, and my process is really simple. There's emotional regulation, that's calming the emotion down. There's mindfulness, that's stepping back and becoming an observer. It's acknowledging the internal dialogue. And then it becomes accessing those heroic emotional programs to become a functioning part of your mind. Then you revisit the internal struggle that you have been fearful of. But you come from it not from that old self, but you come from it from the empowered self. Completely different thing, and you become intentional. That's the one thing when people finish up my work, the whole key is, no, it's intentional now. You know how to do this, but you just don't ride off into the sunset. No, what you do is you stay the course, you know this ritual, you know how to produce this mind, you know how to stay in this mind. That's power. So how do you become this change? Here's some offers, and I don't have quite as grandiose offers as everybody else. I basically find this is that experienced traders know they have a serious problem and they know it's within themselves. And it becomes, well, how do I go about changing this one problem that I have with my system? It's me. But what I encourage you, if you're fairly new to trading, or even if you're experienced, first thing I invite you to do is go to my website and get my free ebook. It's a compilation of 160 pages of articles that I've written in the past, and it is chock full of very powerful, deep understanding of how to take the change process and put it in play within you. If you go beyond that, what I want you to do is, you can get my book, and that's really taking, Mindful Trading is a book, and its workbook companion is literally taking traders who are bulling in china shops. They don't know why they keep blowing things up. They know how to trade, but they keep blowing it up, and taking them through the entire process of arriving at being a professional trader. Powerful stuff about how they reorganize themselves to become that human being. But from there, though, if you're, and there's some stuff you can get there. There's some guided meditations and things like that. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's the courses that make the difference, where you commit yourself to a process where you are engaged in a process that goes through the entire package that I teach, and you come out with skills. This is the powerful piece. And there are two ways that ultimately it comes down to. Is the first way is for our group courses, which we have one starting in June, where it's a powerful course, and it's built to be affordable. It's a little under $1,200, and it's $239 every 2 weeks for 10 weeks. And in here you have 5 group sessions with me. We go over this stuff. We are teaching how to. We're not talking about, oh yeah, you do this breathing. No, we're teaching you how to produce mindfulness. We're teaching you how to produce the internal dialogue. We're teaching you how to find these heroic programs that you can rebuild mind for the trading arena. That's one of them. The other is the individual course with me, where it's very personalized. It is very comprehensive. It is like a master's level multi-dimensional course where you are getting guided meditations, you are getting a textbook, you are getting videos, and you're getting 10 consults with me over a period of 3 to 4 months. And they're all on Skype. We're looking at each other no matter where you live, no matter where I live. I work with people from Australia to Singapore to Germany to the U.S., all over the world. And it is just we find our time and we work through the program. It's not like what we want to talk about today. No, we're working through a curriculum. We're getting core skills down, and you're demonstrating them to me before we move on. Powerful stuff. That's for very serious traders. And if you're thinking, well, how do I engage this? You know, what should I do? First of all, if you're serious, what I would say is this. First, go to the website, get the free stuff. There's free videos. There are free articles. It's a content-rich site. You'll learn a lot. There's a lot of knowledge there. You know, applying it into real action of trading is a different story. You have to learn that. But when you get there and you look and you go, yeah, I get it. This guy really understands what he's talking about. He finally understands what I have, that's what's blocking me, and he has a system for doing it. If you're there, ask for a free consult. All you have to do is hit contact us, and you say, I'd like a free consult. And what happens is Doris will schedule a time for you and I to meet for approximately somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour and really talk about your situation. And let's see if what if I do works for you. Let's see if you're in a place where you're ready. Let's see if you have lost enough money that you've decided that, you know something, I've paid my tuition and I need to start learning how to develop my mind, not just my knowledge, how to develop and use and harness emotion so that I can use reason and emotion together to produce trader state of mind, to produce peak performance. Powerful stuff. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. And I know we have a few minutes, and I know we got on a little late, and I'm a little early. Okay, so I know that we can't see your questions. Oh, Doris can see your questions. If you have questions, I'll be delighted to answer a few, about 5 minutes worth of questions. But you know, I have 45 minutes, and we're going to do 45 minutes. So we have a few minutes. So if you have a question, just type them in, and we'll read them out, and we'll answer it. Okay? So, but until you're doing that, I'm going to assume that everybody is hunky-dory. And Reed, I want to thank you for the time and the place. It's been a lot of fun. And this is something where most people ultimately finally realize how deeply important trader psychology is after they have rifled through their capital. Okay? The really smart trader is the one who knows I need to understand knowledge, but then I need to learn how to apply that knowledge. That's what my coursework does. So, I don't see any questions. So Reed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you. I'm going to thank Investor Inspiration.
We do have one question.
Oh, we do have one question. The question is, how do you deal with perfectionism and overcome it? That's a really good question. And then, by the way, when I used to survey people, about 60% of the traders I was working with, literally, the perfectionism was the problem. But you have to understand perfectionism. What you're trying to do is you are trying to prove yourself, okay? The very first thing you're doing is you're saying, okay, what I'm discovering is that behind perfectionism is a sense of not mattering. I have to be perfect to matter. That's the first thing. We have to get to that. However, when you're trading and you're actually, depending on where you are, where in a trade, where it really shows up, I'm going to take at entry point, okay, is that what you will see in perfectionism, there is an enormous fear of losing or not being right, and you will see it beginning to kick in. You will see it in your body. You literally put a mirror in front of you tomorrow and watch it as you are actually coming to one of these pressure points, and you will see grinding of teeth, you will see the holding of fists, you will see bulgy eyes that are fixated, you will see arousal. You will see yourself holding breath. The first step is to interrupt that. Now, that's not going to solve the problem, but until you can disrupt the emotion of fear behind perfectionism, you're not going to get to the mind anyway. And like, for instance, literally diaphragmatic breathing is simply breathing into the abdominal cavity. It's almost like having a bellows in your gut, and you're pulling air from your nose down the windpipe into the belly, expanding the chest and releasing. At the same time, you are literally intentionally invoking relaxing of tense muscles, and you're feeling them drain. Okay? That's the first stage, because you can't get a hold of it, but then you start getting down to mindfulness where you're stepping back, and ultimately in perfectionism, you will be having a historical dialogue in your head. It's almost like those pictures of when there's a devil and an angel sitting on one shoulder, and basically what's happening is you're going to lose, you're going to lose, you're going to lose. You can hear this, what I call inner critic, saying, you're going to lose, you lose. Don't do anything. You have to be right. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And you're going to also have a fearful part of the self that I call the adapted voice, the orphan, scared to move. Oh my God, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Okay? And you feel the shame and stuff like that. You're beginning to go, oh my goodness gracious, that is not me. That is simply one organization that my brain organized me in to survive in the circumstances of my formative period. And that is the mind that I brought into trading. In our educational system, a lot of things really promotes this don't make a mistake mentality. And if you really want to see don't make a mistake, look at airline pilots, particularly in the U.S. Man, I'll tell you something, those guys, they are drilled not to make a mistake. And then consequently, it makes it really hard for them to overcome that thinking and to go into probability thinking where you know there are going to be losses. But pilots don't think about losing 250 people. So you come to this thing where you realize that's just one organization of the self. And ultimately what you're doing is you have to learn to calm that wounded, fearful part of the self down. That's what you ultimately have to do. And you have to bring forward the discipline, you have to bring forward the courage to go through and have the faith that the other side you're going to be all right, that you can manage it. Because ultimately it is moving from the certainty-based mind that the perfectionist is in to the probability-based mind where you know that, yeah, losses are going to happen, and the thing is what you focus on is not the outcome. You focus on the process. You know, how am I executing this trade? What mind am I bringing into this thing? The only thing that I can really control, just like that surfer, the only thing that you control is that moment. You can't control outcome. You can't control whether or not a shark's in the water or not. The thing is highly doubtful. But that's the start. You have to find those areas, and there are a number of my articles on my website that address this deeper. Okay? And my book in particular goes into it very deep. So that's where I would start. I'd get the free book, read about it, and then if you're interested, you go further and deeper. And let's see where it goes. Anyway, friends, that's my 45 minutes. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank Reed. I want to thank the whole crew. And I truly hope, no matter what, my hope is that you find prosperity. I hope that however prosperity needs to show up for you, I hope it does. And if I can help you in that journey, then I'm the one who's blessed. Thank you very, very much, and good night.